Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the dark and fascinating history of a figure who has haunted our imaginations for centuries, Vlad the Impaler. Now, you might think you know him as the inspiration for Dracula, but the real man Vlad III of Wallachia is a story of political intrigue, brutal warfare, and a desperate fight for independence that is far more complex and arguably more terrifying than any vampire legend. So grab your garlic, just in case, and let's separate the man from the myth. Our story begins in the 15th century, a time of turmoil in Eastern Europe. The mighty Ottoman Empire was expanding, and the small principality of Wallachia, located in modern-day Romania, was caught right in the middle. A crucial buffer state between the Ottomans and the Kingdom of Hungary. It was into this world of constant conflict that Vlad was born, round 1431. His father, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated to defending Christianity against the Ottomans. The name Dracula meant the dragon, so Vlad III became known as Dracula, which simply means son of the dragon. It didn't have any sinister meaning back then, but history has a funny way of twisting things, doesn't it? Vlad's childhood was anything but ordinary. To secure a fragile peace, his father sent him and his younger brother Rodu to the Ottoman court as political hostages. Imagine that, being a teenager, living in the heart of your enemy's empire, your life a bargaining chip in a high-stakes political game. For years, Vlad was immersed in Ottoman culture, language, and military tactics. This wasn't a gentle education, it was a harsh lesson in power, control, and the brutal realities of 15th century politics. This experience undoubtedly shaped him, fueling a deep-seated resentment and providing him with invaluable insight into the minds and methods of the very empire he would later fight. After his father and older brother were brutally assassinated by rival Wallachian nobles, all boyars, backed by Hungary, Vlad's life became a relentless struggle for the throne. He briefly seized power in 1448, but was quickly forced out. It wasn't until 1456 that he finally secured his rule for a significant period. And when he did, he had one primary goal: to consolidate his power and ensure Wallachia's independence from both the Hungarians and the Ottomans. To do this, he needed to deal with the internal threat first, the treacherous boyars who had betrayed his family and kept Wallachia in a state of constant instability. And this is where the legend of the Impaler truly begins. Vlad didn't just want to punish the disloyal nobles, he wanted to make an unforgettable statement. According to historical accounts, he invited hundreds of these boyars and their families to a grand Easter feast. After the meal, he had them all seized. The older ones were impaled on the spot, while the younger, healthier ones were forced into a death march to build his fortress, Puanari Castle. This single act of calculated terror sent a chilling message throughout the land. Loyalty to Vlad was absolute, and the price of betrayal was unimaginable suffering. Vlad saw impalement not just as a method of execution, but as a powerful psychological weapon. It was a slow, agonizing death designed to inspire maximum fear. He didn't invent it, but he perfected its use as an instrument of state policy. He used it against corrupt officials, German merchants who defied his trade laws, and common criminals. His goal was to create a society of absolute order, enforced by absolute terror. Stories spread, perhaps exaggerated, perhaps not, of a golden cup left in the middle of a town square that no one dared to steal, for fear of Vlad's horrific justice. He was creating a reputation, a brand of fear that would precede him onto the battlefield. And the battlefield is where his reputation would be cemented forever. Having secured his power at home, Vlad turned his attention to the greatest threat, the Ottoman Empire. He flat out refused to pay the traditional tribute to the Sultan, a bold act of defiance. Sultan Mehmed II, the same man who had conquered Constantinople, was not one to be trifled with. In 1462, he assembled a massive army, reportedly 3 times the size of Vlad's forces, and marched on Wallachia to crush the rebellion once and for all. What followed was not a conventional war. Vlad knew he couldn't win a pitched battle against the superior Ottoman forces. So, he waged a campaign of pure guerrilla warfare and psychological terror. He employed scorched earth tactics, burning his own villages and poisoning wells to deny the advancing army any resources. His men would launch lightning-fast raids on the Ottoman camps, striking in the dead of night to cause chaos and panic before melting back into the forests they knew so well. The most infamous event of this campaign was the legendary night attack. Disguised as a Turk, Vlad himself infiltrated the Sultan's main camp with a small force of his most elite soldiers. Their goal was audacious: to assassinate Sultan Mehmed in his own tent. They wreaked havoc, slaughtering thousands of surprised Ottoman soldiers in the dark. While they failed to kill the Sultan, the psychological impact was devastating. The Ottomans were unnerved, realizing they were fighting an enemy who was fearless, cunning, and seemingly everywhere at once. But Vlad saved his most terrifying spectacle for last. As the Sultan and his exhausted army finally approached the Wallachian capital of Target, they weren't met with city walls and defenders. Instead, they were greeted by a horrifying sight: a vast field, a forest of the impaled, stretching for miles. On thousands of stakes stood the rotting bodies of captured Ottoman soldiers, a grotesque and silent warning. Even Sultan Mehmed, a hardened warrior and conqueror of empires, was reportedly shaken to his core by the sheer scale and horror of the display. He acknowledged that he could not win a country from a man who did such things. The Ottoman army, demoralized and plagued by Vlad's guerrilla tactics, retreated. Despite this incredible military and psychological victory, Vlad's reign was not secure. The Ottomans, ever the strategists, decided to support Vlad's own brother, Radu the Handsome, to take the Wallachian throne. Radu, who had remained in the Ottoman court and converted to Islam, promised the boys peace and stability. Many of the nobles, tired of Vlad's tyrannical rule and constant warfare, sided with Radu. Betrayed and abandoned, Vlad was forced to flee to Hungary, seeking aid from his supposed ally, King Matthias Corvinus. But instead of help, he was imprisoned. Politics, as ever, was a fickle game. Vlad spent over a decade in captivity in Hungary before being released to reclaim his throne one last time in 1476. But his final rule was short-lived. He was killed in battle against the Ottomans that same year. The exact circumstances of his death are murky, lost to the fog of war, but his head was allegedly taken to Constantinople and displayed as proof that the Impaler was finally gone. So, how did this brutal medieval warlord become the elegant, blood-sucking count of Gothic fiction? The transformation began not long after his death. German and Russian pamphlets, essentially the propaganda of the day, sensationalized his cruelty, painting him as a monstrous tyrant. Then, in the 19th century, Irish author Bram Stoker, while researching Eastern European folklore, stumbled upon the name Dracula and accounts of the historical Vlad. He borrowed the name and his reputation for cruelty, fused it with vampire myths, and created the iconic character we know today. Stoker likely knew very little about the real Vlad's life, his political struggles, or his war against the Ottomans. He just needed a scary name with a dark history. In modern Romania, however, Vlad the Impaler is often viewed very differently. For many, he's not a monster or a vampire, but a national hero. They see him as a fierce patriot, a strong leader who fought for his country's independence against impossible odds. They see his brutal methods as a necessary evil in a brutal age, the only way to protect his people from being swallowed by a massive empire. It's a powerful reminder that history is all about perspective. One person's tyrant is another's freedom fighter. The story of Vlad the Impaler is a chilling, complex, and utterly captivating tale. He was a product of his violent times, a ruler who used unspeakable cruelty to forge order and defend his homeland. While his name is now forever linked with the supernatural, the true story of Vlad III, son of the dragon, is a stark lesson in power, fear, and the brutal fight for survival. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the past. What do you think? Was Vlad a monstrous tyrant or a national hero? Let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.